help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. When she just came out, she told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. We want to wish you a continued happy post-election season. That is the topic of today's podcast. We will get in depth on the election and some of these abortion referendums that we won, that we lost, why that happened, how it impacts you, no matter where you live. This is coming out on Tuesday, November the 19th. So if you are getting this, right out of the gate, be sure you join us for the What Now video webcast, which will happen tonight, Tuesday, November 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Be sure to join us. You will hear from Steve Carlin, Matt Britton, Dr. Haywood Robinson, Ramona Trevino. We will give you everything you need to know on what now that the election is over. We predicted that the election would come and go, and that happened. And as we have covered last week on the podcast with our initial election response podcast, we are happy with the results. And somebody who is hardly ever happy with anything joins me today, and that is Mr. Steve Carlin.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, I thought you were going to start with somebody else first.
Who else is at the table? Oh, Matt Britton's here. Sorry, I'm excited. Can we redo that? You're happy about a lot of things.
Always. I didn't know who he was talking about.
Oh yeah. Well, he looked up like, he talking to me?
I'm happy with the joy of the Lord. The Lord is enough for me.
What about you? The Lord's not enough for Steve. That's for sure.
Well, he had to disparage me. But to be fair, Steve, I deserve it. You're turning the tables on 123 other, which I've toned down. I hope you'd notice.
Oh, yeah.
On these podcasts. Yeah, I got sage advice from a great friend of 40 Days for Life, and he said it's funny, but it's too much. Steve's a good guy, and he is a good guy.
Well, you also had a new, I guess, tactic in that you have a Post-it and it's on the mirror. Where you brush your teeth every morning, and then you have one down here, and it
KYBM. Keep
nice.
your big mouth shut.
No. Be nice to Steve. That's the only.
And it's easy, because he's a great guy and he does a great job, and I affirm him.
This is working. This is.
It's just Diet Dr. Pepper.
That's funny because Steve illegally he's drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. That's what's in that. And you had the bottle out. That's what was illegal. We don't want any products on here.
My dad said, you pour that in a pitcher, you pour that in a cup. This is one of the last decorum. It's a family meal.
Classy.
No phones. You don't bring commercial things. We don't care about the Coca-Cola Corporation. We don't care about the Lucerne Milk Corporation. You pour it in a cup. You use a cloth napkin. It's decorum. You say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. So I don't know.
It's good manners.
Do it. And then he ran in here with all his corporate products and his Zero Cokes and all that stuff. And yeah, so I got a little verklempt.
No, I'm going to correct you on that. He had Dr. Pepper Zero, and I'm going to push back. I think Dr. Pepper is super pro-life. They're based in Texas. They make Dr. Pepper. It's freaking awesome. They have to be pro-life.
Can I tell you, we had a detective once back in the day.
Remember, this is like a family podcast.
And he loved the mace, the pepper spray. And so it was like
Love the mace.
Oh, like anytime
10 or 20.
Hey officer, how you doing?
He's sprayed so many people. We called him Dr. Pepper.
That's awesome. Dr. Pepper.
And he was like, what? That's less than lethal. Didn't I get the situation de-escalated and nobody got hurt? And I'm like, yeah, but you do that 14 times a month.
Right.
He didn't graduate from the police academy to be called Mr. Pepper.
That's exactly right. That's an excellent point. And you know a lot about
That's
Dr.
an
Pepper.
excellent- Yeah, Steve does know a lot about Dr. Pepper. So Dr. Pepper Zero is amazing.
Yeah, no doubt.
As is the vanilla Dr. Pepper.
Haven't had it.
I'm sorry. It's cream soda.
Okay.
Cream soda and Dr. Pepper mixed is amazing.
There are important matters.
We're discussing them right now.
Oh, okay.
Steve's Dr. Pepper Zero. Okay. The elections came. We're just going to go over a couple of topics. We're going to do a deep dive into the referendas. Here's what's great is that the whole backlash, the world is ending because Roe v. Wade fell, is starting to end. And if you were going to run for president, and you were going to run on abortion, and you were going to be the first female president, this was the year to do it because everybody's dying in the street because there's no abortion. The evil, Donald Trump overturned abortion. Women will get on planes, trains, and automobiles. Great movie, especially for Thanksgiving time. And go have abortions. They'll travel. They'll do whatever. Boom, we're going to win. We're going to run on abortion. And Kamala got obliterated. It didn't work at all. And that's a very good sign for the pro-life movement.
Without a doubt, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, we predicted that it would get worse before it gets better, that there would be a backlash. But just as that backlash was inevitable, it was inevitable that the backlash would fade. And 2022 didn't go as well as it should have for pro-life candidates. Some of them who were courageous about their stance won, but I think the politicians that think that abortion is a good thing assume they'd be able to coast to election on that, and it wasn't the case. Case in point here, interesting number. I love kind of digging into the numbers. In 2022, Democrats won voters who want abortion to be legal in most cases by 22%. Probably not a surprise for most. But in 2024, the pro-abortion voters actually split 49-49 between the two parties. No advantage for Democrats, even on pro-abortion voters.
See, last week I teased that you're going to come in here to promote the podcast. I teased that you'll have all these nerd stats that'll be really interesting. This is probably the greatest one. So the voters split 50-50, which means the just constant onslaught of abortion and celebrating it at the DNC, doing abortions at the DNC, it just didn't register. They
Registered with us. We filed a complaint with the IRS.
That was fun.
Against
back in the
Planned
DNC.
Parenthood.
That was in August.
Yeah.
That was a lot of
Registered
fun.
with us.
Yeah.
That was great, and it was righteous. The Eastern District of Virginia memo saying that they're going after domestic terrorists known as Roman Catholics, and the Obama administration admitting that they went after pro-life organizations or PACs or whatever. And they're doing abortion. Planned Parenthood is sending up 2 different Planned Parenthoods from the Midwest, and they're doing abortions at the DNC. So just wanted a little plug, Yeah, and we were happy to do it. And Dr. Donato Barillo, who's on the ILJ team, who's also a practicing attorney, is licensed to practice medicine in Illinois, where they pulled those shenanigans. And they're going to get away with it. But you know what? If enough people, maybe big smoke, no fire, but maybe Donald Trump takes over, new DOJ, new IRS, maybe refocuses some of those 80,000 new agents on 501c3 status, and so be it. You don't pay taxes, you should be. The government should look over your shoulder, but you can't go and target. And it was disgusting, right, Steve? I mean, they had like huge abortion pills with models and huge IUDs.
Yeah,
and they were clearly
There was an inflatable IUD.
And an inflatable abortion pill. And they said they were providing it to the DNC. And so, I mean, if y'all want to see it, I think our complaint to the IRS is on our website at 40 Days for Life.
We'll put it in the show links, and we can put the Fox Business story on there too. We got the great media coverage, but we'll put that on there because people will want to reference, that seems so long ago now in August, but we did file that complaint. It's one of those situations, the ILJ, Institute of Law and Justice, did such a great job because it's one of those things.
And you remember the big MSNBC thing that followed up and interviewed you and did?
Yeah.
Remember that?
They were so glad that we filed that complaint against the IRS.
Oh, no.
I think it's on the ranting uncle list where you're like, they're offering freaking abortions at the DNC and everybody complains about it, but we did something about it. And, I think that you got to hold their feet to the fire.
And it is their market, but it's illegal.
Right.
And so, anyway, we get our feet held to the fire. It kind of feels like you're a pro-lifer and you drive 56 and a 55 and you get arrested for reckless driving and zip-tied and held no bond for 2 days. And you're like, but you can't even go to jail for this. It's a speeding offense. And they can steam down the road at 90 and a 25 during, in a school zone. And they're like, well, they are liberal. And
right.
That's one of the things that I always tell folks about. The only thing I have to say about the election, y'all are the experts, except for these referenda. I'll go through those if you want me to. But the only thing I have to say is the 14th Amendment is so important. That's the one that says the Equal Protection Clause. So if the First Amendment's important to you, if your Second Amendment rights are important to you, if your Fourth Amendment, that they can't kick the door down except for a warrant and arrest you but for probable cause, if that's important to you, you better think the 14th Amendment's important to you because that's the one that says that all people, regardless of creed, sexuality, whatever it is, deserve equal protection under the laws. And as Oliver Wendell Holmes said, if the law does not apply equally to everybody, it applies unequally to everybody.
You have made me love Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he's also the one that said free speech doesn't mean you can yell fire in a movie theater, which I love. But also, I think, myself included, we all like saying Oliver Wendell Holmes. Was he not destined to be on the Supreme Court or do something, right? He was going to be an emperor. He was going to, the name like that.
Actually, the three names is like an assassin, right?
Yeah, except John Wilkes Booth, Lee Harvey Oswald.
I haven't
Carlin.
studied assassins in depth like you have, but
this is Steve's hobby on his spare time. By the way,
that's Heather's hobby.
You got to hand it to you. You finally took your inflatable IUD out of your front yard just so you could show off the rose bushes and everything. It looks much nicer.
Yeah, for sure.
But he had the Christmas lights on it. It was
not until December 25th.
Oh yeah, he's a Christmas Nazi. I'm telling you, it's like noon on Christmas Day. He'll start saying Merry Christmas. Okay, so they split 50-50 after winning at 22%. This last one before we.
But y'all, those are exit polls, right?
I don't know. Where'd you get those?
Where do you get these statistics?
So,
these are exit polls, because then everybody comes up and goes, "But that's only an exit poll," and I'm like, "But you're reporting on it, and you took it."
Right.
So it's reported as gospel truth, but then when they don't want to believe them,
right,
they say, "Well, but of course, those are just the people that would talk to us."
It's wrong. Yeah, the polls.
So
are
what
wrong.
they do, and allegedly this works. The exit polls, when you hear them out on like 4 p.m. on election day, that's true. They're not useful. They always get it wrong. They're not accurate. But what they do later after the fact is they'll go and they'll map what they heard in the exit polls to the actual results and sort of reweight it. And that is a pretty good indicator of who voted for who, party-wise, demographic-wise.
Oh, so it's AI, so we can trust it.
Yeah, the computers they have our best interests in mind. Yeah.
They're going to help us in the future.
Yeah, the T1000 is counting the exit poll.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Well, the problem is he ran into the nitro tank and he froze. Why Arnold shot him? Because then he went in all those bits and pieces in Terminator 2 and melted.
He shot everybody.
He should.
That's why he shot him. He'll live.
Out of the top 5 greatest action scenes of all time, 3 of them are from Terminator 2. You're just like, it's awesome. Going back, why is that though? 4 o'clock. Why? How come that's not accurate, particularly in an era where half the country early votes?
Simply, it's like Matt said, who's willing to talk and who's not willing to talk.
But what is that? Why does that change after 4 o'clock?
It's just when they usually start getting reported.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because the tone of the reporters is very telling. I saw it this year. You definitely saw it in 2016 because the media is given the exit polling data, whatever you say, but they legally can't report it till those particular polls close wherever they are. So that's why at like 7:30 you can hear some like different tones, like, well, we're not saying Trump's gonna win, but if he does, and you're like, well, how would they even say that? We haven't even counted Indiana. It's like the first state to come in. So that's interesting. That you don't really get a whole lot from it, but the exit polling. This is the best thing. This is really sad for Harris Waltz. So Hillary beat Trump. Women hate Trump, as we know, apparently. So Trump loses to Hillary on women by 11%. He loses to Biden.
15 by Hillary.
15, okay.
Yeah.
Then he loses to Biden by 11%. Mm-hmm. So the women weren't crazy about Joe.
And this was going to be Rovember, right? We were going to have this unprecedented female anger at Republicans and particularly at Donald Trump for overturning Roe v. Wade. And it wasn't going to be 15, it was going to be 20, it was maybe going to be 25. We had that poll that came out for Iowa that showed Harris was going to win Iowa based on the pro-abortion women vote. That lady's finished, that pollster. And she's actually, she predicted Trump's win in 2016. So she has a lot of credibility, but if she was she like 24 points off or something? The swing was it's pretty dramatic.
It's pretty dramatic how wrong she was. So Kamala only wins by 7%, wins the women.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Well, I saw it coming because women love me, Steve. They love me. And that's why they got out and voted. So
I don't know if it was, I like that Rovember. I hadn't actually heard that, Steve, but I'm sure you made it up. You should patent it. And but it wasn't Kamala-vember. In some ways, and we're going to get to that now, I think, or soon, it was Rovember. In some ways,
it was Rovember. It was.
I mean, it was Trump-vember, but it was also Rovember.
It was Trump-vember.
Well, every headline that you see is like, and abortion is more important to the voters than ever, and that just assumes that they're all pro-abortion voters, that there's no pro-life voters out there.
But no one. That never occurred to anybody. Like this summer, we were saying that, but they're just like, it's the number 4 issue. Yeah, for both sides. Mm-hmm. And because the pro-life single-issue voter constituency is one of the largest single-issue constituencies in the country, they just ignored that fact.
It's funny, when people say abortion's interesting, I automatically assume they mean both sides.
No. It was...
That's funny. I mean, I automatically assumed that they meant...
You're a person of logic.
Yeah.
My person... Oh, I am a person.
You are a person of logic, but you don't count.
Does that affirm me?
Yes, and validates you.
Oh, thank you. I felt that way. I just wanted to make sure you wasn't making fun of me, and I was too dumb to know.
But you...
Yes, I just hear that, honestly, up until this and I thought it meant that the abortion issue is important to both sides.
No.
You mean getting abortion and having more of them?
Voting for abortion. Number 4, number 2, they would just make sense. I remember back in June, because I was doing all these interviews, and I was like, I pulled a poll, and it was number 6 or 7 for Democrats, because that's the easiest way to do it, is split it up by party.
Well, that's definitely abortion.
Right. And you're like, that's when I thought Trump's, this is before the Biden debate. I was like, I think Trump's going to win and win pretty handedly. The only time I thought he had a chance of losing was after his terrible debate with Kamala, but he quickly recovered from that. But back in June, it's like, this is the number 6 issue for Democrats. Why are they celebrating it like they're just going to walk up and, win the election on abortion?
And frankly, the single issue pro-abortion voters, they want abortion in the 8th month, the 9th month. They want abortion pills handed out for trick-or-treating at Halloween. Like they weren't voting already. It's not like they can vote twice because they're more fired up about abortion than ever before. Those people were already
some locations voting. They can, apparently.
Yeah.
Where Steve lives.
Yeah, but I think you're right empirically that people, when they say abortion matters, they mean pro-abortion, killing of children, because there were 10 abortion measures on the referendum in the state ballots, and only 2 of those had pro-life possibilities with them. So I think, empirically, I just hadn't occurred to me because abortion is an important issue to me. I don't want it anywhere ever. And neither should they when they say, remember back early on when I was, in high school, they started the March for Life, and it was rare, it was something nobody wanted. And now still most of the people are saying, yes, it's the killing of a child, but it's our right over the child. But still nobody wants it. You guys are making the long walk longer, that type of stuff. So you want to enshrine something bad and difficult into the Constitution. And that's what did happen in 70% of the ballots initiatives.
Well, with that, we can segue. But before, did you think he was going to win Wisconsin?
I thought it was 50-50. I thought
That's so boring.
it is boring, yeah, but it.
What did he win it by?
I want to say 2 or 3.
Oh, that much. I thought it was like
Votes?
0.5%.
2 or 3. I think like 2%. I think.
2%? Okay.
I think so.
I thought it was
don't
like half
remember
a
exactly.
percentage point, but I haven't checked it.
How
in a
much
while.
did he lose Minnesota by?
That was fun.
What was it, like 5?
Yeah, but he lost. He lost New Jersey by 5.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Illinois was single digits.
No, it wasn't. Dang.
Where's Illinois?
It's
It's in Canada.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's,
Cold
what,
up
that's
there.
what we were hoping.
Yeah.
See, prayer is effective.
All right. So the talking points before you dive into this on the referendums is okay. So we've just gotten it handed to us every time. We lose every time since Roe fell, and so I thought we had a chance in Florida, but it wouldn't surprise me if we lost Florida. I didn't think any of the other states had a chance. So it sounds pathetic, but it's true. Winning 3 of the 10 was good, because it didn't stop the bleeding, but it slowed down the bleeding of just losing every time. And it sends a message that these state referendums are not this automatic cruise control, the abortion side wins. So that was good. But in the end, we lost 7. Do you think there's any limit? Are they just going to go to every state and do this?
Well, let me define what we're talking about. In 10 states out of 50, it's already on the constitutions of some states. So 10 states out of about 40 that don't already have it. The states move for the people, which is generally the only way that it can happen. Some states have the legislature can vote by a 75% to amend the Constitution. They are putting it on a referenda, which means the people vote along with like Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, ballot initiative 1. And called a referenda. The people vote to enshrine abortion rights into the Constitution, whether or not that's reversing a pro-life stance, as it happened in Missouri, or whether or not that's just enshrining basically the exact same thing you already had as they did in Montana or Colorado, because all 50 states have constitutions. And although the Constitution of the state cannot violate the Constitution of the U.S., so the highest law in the land is the U.S. Constitution. And below that is the state constitution. So that's the 10th Amendment. All powers not enumerated in the federal Constitution go to the states. Largely ignored until Trump, who said that this matter should be referred back to the states. When that happened, Roe v. Wade died. Dobbs became law of the land. Dobbs did not end abortion. It sent the power for each state to decide whether abortion was legal and under what terms to each state.
Let me stop you right there, because you mentioned the 14th Amendment earlier. Obviously, our end goal is that the unborn will be recognized under the 14th Amendment. That's like our, what we want our kids or grandkids to have in our country one day. Was Thomas pushing for that when they did this? And of course, none of the other justices were going to go
Pushing
for it.
for what?
For when they overturned Roe, that they just do the whole thing and they put it under the 14th Amendment and it ends all abortion.
Yes.
Yeah. He was the only one, though, right?
Yes, because there's something greater
gold.
than law, which is natural law, because all of our law comes from natural law, which is God's law. And in fact, all of our leaders, including the ones that deny God exists and are mad at him, their authority comes from God. They may not like it, but it's true. And so Thomas knows this. And above all of the law is personhood. And they're citizens of the United States of America. And so he said, you can't deny a citizen stuff. A state can't. So yes, the answer is yes. And under a technical legal argument, but an understandable technical legal argument, all people, you want the law to apply to you because you're fat, skinny, tall, short, black, white, blue, gay. You want the law to apply to you equally to everybody else? That's all people. That's people with a heartbeat that aren't born yet. That's people without a heartbeat that aren't born yet. And they don't want that. So
what's the legal argument to send it back?
it.
What was the legal argument or technical argument to send it back to the states? Like, why didn't they all look at Thomas and be like, that makes sense. I think we have to do this.
Well, they don't want abortion. and it's a political institution.
So eventually the politics enter.
Yeah.
Like even like.
I mean, come on, it is.
Isn't Kavanaugh going? Whoa, okay, guys. Like it's bad law. We need to overturn Roe. But if we just outright completely ban abortion,
I'm not going to speculate on what Kavanaugh was thinking. But no, seriously, I know
what do you think
meant.
he was thinking? Like, let's go get a beer.
I don't
okay,
know.
okay.
Yeah, but our amp goes to 11. I don't know. I'm just kidding about Kavanaugh. I think they're all political, whether they're on the right or the middle or the left, and they all deny that it's a political institution.
Sure.
And then they say stuff like, none of the dissents in any of the abortion cases ever once mentioned the unborn baby. They didn't even say, we don't care about the unborn baby. We don't care about the fetus. We don't care about the blastocyst. Nothing. You've set women's rights back 55 years.
But they don't even.
And they're like, maybe that's true, but
but they don't address Alito's opinion. It was like they read,
and they do get it. They all get the dissents and they get the opinions and the majority, and so they know. And that's why you read in the dissent, and the majority says.
But they never say the majority is wrong on this point because.
No.
They never say that.
They say they're wrong because they're outdated, misogynistic, right-wing men or whatever. But
forget Amy.
But anyway, so it goes back to the states. That's what Trump wanted. That's what the Supreme Court ruled was constitutional under what's called the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, because abortion's not in the Constitution. Therefore, it must be a power given to the states, called the community standard.
Okay.
And so if you don't like the community, move out. You don't like I'll just make up imagine a fictional town called Madison in a fictional land called Wisconsin. And let's just say it was uber liberal, right? You can leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've been there and I left.
Yes.
With you. So anyway, that's...
It's like when we were talking about on the podcast when like the many reasons I could never be elected to office. One of them is that I went on the podcast and talked about Texas needs to seriously consider secession, and it's all peaceful. I'm not like a go clean the guns. It's that what happens is we don't have to do it now, obviously. But what happens is, I'm serious. So
they weren't listening to you when you said they should do it. Don't worry.
I think I can convince you of this because I haven't shared this with you. So the way we do it is, okay, Texas goes and says, all right, we'll keep the same currency. Okay, that's easy. We're not going to have our own military. All the military serves in the United States. You bounce around Europe, so do I. Like, what's like the end of the world? And so Texas becomes its own country. Here's what the U.S. gets. Texas is the 10th biggest economy in the world, so we're good. We can offshore drill off the Gulf of Mexico. Again, we don't have to do this. So we're our own country. What does America get? This is if Kamala would have won. They don't have to deal with that part of the southern border. It's an instant, just check that box. You don't have to deal with that part of the Mexican border. We take our, 40 electoral votes, and the Democrats have power for the rest of the time. So they would sign on the dotted line.
Speaking of America, Steve and I had an appointment there for a podcast.
He didn't say it was a bad idea. And frankly, I would move
Not
there.
a no.
I would move there. We'd set up beautiful hotels in Galveston and such beautiful beaches. Okay.
Referenda.
Hold on. I'm not done with the story. I go into this, and instead of looking at me like I'm nuts, Steve goes, I would be looking at houses immediately. He's like going to move to Texas.
Works for you.
If it becomes our own country. Oh, he's just saying that.
Yeah. He sees that Sean Carney on his paycheck every month.
Not well.
You know.
He's just not himself.
Switch the decap.
I'm telling you. Okay, where were we?
So there were 10. The Constitution is the highest law. So it goes the U.S. Constitution, then the U.S. Code, right? And then you have case law, Supreme Court being the highest. And the court interprets statutes. They don't make them. They're supposed to be. Despite what AOC said, there's 3 branches of government, not 3 houses of Congress. And so the legislature, the Congress, passes laws. The executive, the president, the DOJ and FDA, HHS, and all, they execute the laws, hence the word, the executive branch. They put it into action. They enforce the law. And then the judiciary interprets the law. many judiciary members called judges and justices. They tend to make law and rewrite law. Those are called activist judges. Conservative judges, or like Justice Scalia, traditionalist judges, they don't. They just read it and they're like, but I'll give you an example. Nobody actually believes that. But you talked about the great state of Texas. So the Eighth Amendment says that has a prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Cruel and unusual punishment. Well, they were drawing and quartering people.
Right.
And which is a great deterrent, by the way.
I would think that would reduce crime.
Well, so that's one of the
word quartering just makes me nervous. And
and wondering what drawing means. But hooking you up to 4 horses and 4 guys with whips, not good. But drawing and quartering was legal, and they were like, this is super cruel. And Texas said, it is cruel, but it's not unusual. And we do it all the time. And they said, it's as cruel and unusual. And to tell you the truth, even the conservative justices were like, well, it doesn't.
Right.
And the most conservative back in the day were like, no, we cannot rewrite it. And oh, by the way, if you ever listen to like Sesame Street, conjunction, junction, and is different than or. And you're not just going to rewrite it. You're going to take and flip it on its head to an or, which means the exact opposite. So now it's one or the other when it was supposed to be both. They knew what they were doing. It was this is Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. These people knew what they were doing. They spoke French. They must have known something. And and then they flipped it. So nobody really believes that you can't interpret the Constitution, because that's yes, it is cruel, but we do it every day.
Right.
So that type of stuff, because we're not cruel people. But apply that humanity, apply that empathy, apply that compassion to the unborn. And then they're all like, and means and,
Yeah.
And that's when I appreciate you saying, but you're a logical person. I think that's what you meant. Logic doesn't just get applied when you need it, and neither does the law. You're going to like this. The 14th Amendment, equal protection. It gets applied to everybody equally. So they say a hallmark of justice is similarly situated people are treated similarly. Wouldn't you agree to that?
Yeah, I would agree to that. But this is where that's why I brought up them sending it back to the states and it being political, because they weren't logical with that.
It's not political or not political, and I can prove it. I can tell you why. For instance, in some states like Missouri, Montana, the Supreme Court justices are elected. They're elected by popular vote. In those states, it's absolutely political. You're voting for someone who is going to interpret a law to be liberal or not liberal. That's why you're doing it. And then you get a state like Virginia, or a Commonwealth like Virginia, where they're not. They're appointed by, or technically elected by, the legislature, the General Assembly, and then they're reappointed, so they're not popularly elected. You have the Missouri plan, the modified Missouri plan, about elected people. A lot of people think electing a judge is unconstitutional because you put a sign in the yard and then what? How are you going to get a fair trial?
It is weird, and we do it here a lot. As you know, in Texas, my buddy was just elected judge, and I was like, it's weird that y'all have to run for office.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's kind of corrupt. But
yeah, no, it is. Yeah. It is. It's conflicted is what it is. But in any event, so wherever you feel about it, however you feel about it, because it went back to the states.
It went back to the states, but that's why I want to hammer this, because the whole thing is that it's not consistent. You can be ripped to pieces and put in a canister in California, and you're not human and you don't matter. And in Texas and in Florida and Tennessee, you're protected, and that's not sustainable. My question to you is, the Supreme Court justices know that. So if you were...
And it's not sustainable because people say, well, what about taxes? Some states don't have sales tax, but they have higher... And those are all different. But tax... All of those are set off, and they affect people who live in those states differently. People are the same everywhere.
They don't.
This is the one. Exactly. This is the one thing that goes. But they kill you.
Right. That's a big one.
It's the house divided. You can't remain half slave, half free. And I don't think, as you've said, Sean, you can remain half pro-abortion, half pro-life.
It's not sustainable, and it won't be sustainable in the long run. But if you're hanging out, if you're at Alito's house this week or next week for Thanksgiving, and you've eaten all the pie and everything, and you're tired, and you and he are sitting there flipping channels, hanging out, and you say, "Hey, Sam, as
I often do.
Yeah, Big Sam, how does this end? Like, what's your prediction? What would he say?
First of all, God bless Justice Alito.
Yes.
A great jurist, one of the great Supreme Court justices. And I think that he hopes and prays and thinks that within 99 years it will end by a U.S. constitutional amendment granting personhood. And back in the day, you and I used to talk about it in the middle of the pro-life movement. From the early 70s until now. From the middle of that, they had the personhood movement, and it was a big deal. They still have it, but it was a big deal. And some people were talking about it. Some people were saying it's stupid. Most people didn't understand it. But all it means is that from conception to death, you are a person. And once you're a person, everybody has to agree that you get citizenship, and you're a citizen of the United States, and then you get equal protection. That's
but the argument,
have I mentioned that?
Yeah, you have, and you're a big 14th Amendment guy. The problem with that, the argument against that, is that, and this was the argument against the personhood people. They wanted a constitution.
You remember you're arguing against Alito right now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Hey.
Because he asked me what it was.
Well, he shouldn't have had me over for Thanksgiving if he didn't want me to argue with
Big
him.
Sam.
But I would
He's
say,
generous.
look, I don't have a law degree, and you seem like a really smart guy. But so you go and you say, we can't do a constitutional amendment for personhood because personhood's already in the Constitution. It's in the 14th Amendment. We just need to recognize all of our citizens.
Yeah, but what if a state declares that unborn aren't citizens? I mean, that would be another thing. I don't want to do.
Which is what
I don't
this
want to do.
is.
It doesn't say it though. What I don't want to do is a how-to for these things. But first of all, so finishing up this thing, so you got the U.S. Constitution. No law can violate that. You got a bunch of federal laws and a bunch of federal cases, which are also law. When the judges say something, it's law. We know that from Dobbs. Thank God, by the way, or else we'd have slavery. Mm-hmm. So. And then below that, the next highest law and the highest state law is the Constitution, and no state law could violate the Constitution. So these people, they're stone cold killers, but they're not dumb. They may be peddling a woke liberal agenda at Harvard, but they're still doing it at Harvard. They're smart. So what the smart thing to do is, and we saw this, I think, very sadly in Ohio. Very sadly, is they put it in the Constitution. And then you know what? I become irrelevant. What am I going to sue the state? No, I can't argue the statutes. Oh, it's not unconstitutional. In fact, it's in the Constitution. So a bunch of states got passed like that. Ohio, a Midwest life-loving heartland state. My gosh, Ohio. But unrestricted. Basically vague, and I guess it's unrestricted. You can't read the thing and understand it. So these other states did it too. And 10 of them, that's a lot. That's 25% of the remaining states that didn't have it in the Constitution, put it on for the ballot, and 7 out of 10 of those passed.
But we got out-messaged. It's not, so.
That's why we lost, and it's true. But aren't you tired?
Yes.
We didn't, you know what? I counted up, and I got 11 mailers in the state of Montana vote yes on CI 128. I got none on vote no. None. We didn't send out one. That's not an excuse. That you know what that is? That's apathy. That's a lack of fortitude, which is a virtue. That is a lack of. I mean, give me a break. We got to get the message out.
Trump got outraised and outspent, and he won.
He did it by getting people to go out and vote. Mm-hmm. And why can't we get people to go out and vote?
But what I'm saying is, I think it's not. I'd be afraid to get the message out because our messaging in a lot of these states has been terrible.
Oh, I see. The
messaging is terrible, and so. I told you read the Kansas ballot, I would have had to call you or Alito or a lawyer and been like, how do I vote? I'm pro-life because it's so confusing. But in Ohio, there were a couple of things. First off, all this was very knee-jerk reaction. But the pro-abortion side did an excellent job at this is just basic. We need care for rape victims. They hammered the rape victim thing, and it won. So for this last election, the national election, the exit polling is now 25% of people support abortion with no regulation. And these states are losing all this is abortion through 40 weeks, and yet we're losing those. And it's not by 25%. In other words, people don't know what they're voting for. And that's a messaging problem. Because only 25%
exit polling, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because only in the exit polling, said the exit polls were accurate. So, but if 25% of the people say, "Oh yeah, baby, kill them all," infanticide, we want it.
I can argue with you. I can argue with you. I can argue
overwhelmingly
with you a little bit on this. It used to be that way, and it still is that way in most, but not all. For instance, I went and did a survey of all of my visited 3 states that had it on. I live in one of them, Montana, and it just said vote no on CI 128. Too radical for Montana. And that was a good message. They just didn't get it out. What you're talking about is that these folks...
That's so boring. That could have been for or against. What's too radical for Montana? Because the other
CI
side's...
128.
It's too extreme. It's too extreme, Steve. I know you love
We
that
want the
phrase.
right amount of extreme.
Yeah, this is overly extreme. This is like...
Look, here's
chocolate.
another argument against you. You didn't like that one? Fine. The left has the exact other argument, which is draft this thing in such a vague way that nobody knows what they're voting. Make the message terrible.
Yeah.
And just get it out there. Because if we just get like 7 or 8% that vote the wrong way, we're going to win. And they did. And that's why Born Alive Act. The Born Alive Act, for you folks that don't know what it is that's if you try and have an abortion and the baby lives. I mean, life is life, right? So the baby's there on the table, and the mom and dad were like, let's kill the baby. And the doctor's like, I'll do it, $630. And he's like, the baby's alive. He's breathing. They're like, let the baby die. The law just to keep the baby from, like, saying, no.
Give
Life
medical care.
failed.
60%
in Montana.
But it also failed like Congress. I forget what year that was. You would know. But that's the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which is like so.
But there's not a single Democrat statewide elected in the state of Montana. Just use that as an example because it failed 60% and the entire state is red.
That to me, that is like a messaging thing. Like no abortion up to birth. Is that hard?
No infanticide.
No infanticide. But people are like, it's not infanticide.
Can we compromise? Could one go together? Could we say that if we had better... You're absolutely right as usual. I'm affirming you. And if we had better messaging...
You know I want to secede.
If we had a genius such as you messaging this for us, we would get out the vote better. One maybe is the tail. Maybe if we had the dog more clearly barking, the tail would follow. And the people would come and say, that's a clear message. We need to get out there and vote.
Am I the barking in this, or I'm the dog, I'm the tail?
You see, that's an example.
It's got to be your bull.
That's an example of unclear messaging. I just wanted to give that to the folks. No, I'm saying I agree with you. But if the message were better, I'm not sure you can have one without the other. If everybody comes out and votes and they understand they don't understand what they're voting for, it doesn't much matter. If everybody understands what they're voting for, but they stay home and watch the Cowboys-Eagles game, it doesn't much matter, right? Do they still play?
Well, yes, even though you've got a little like executive for the Washington Redskins going on, so I like it that you.
But I think they lost by 1 point. They were going to be like 6-3, weren't they?
Right? Yeah. No, they lost. Thankfully.
You know what you call you if you lose? Loser.
Okay.
So
it's clear messaging.
The transition of that is on the messaging
don't
front.
say that.
They did that in Florida. Florida was a state. I mean, it had a shot at being like yes on Trump, no on pro-life, and they won, and they got the message out.
Well, a big part of it, a lot of the on-the-ground grassroots political activists, you know who they credited for winning in Florida was DeSantis, because he didn't curl up, he went out, he barnstormed, he promoted.
He had the doctors.
100%. They should rename Florida like something with Ron in it. 100%. That was a vote for DeSantis. It was a dominance of DeSantis over Trump in the political realm, not in the national, but he is the general manager of Florida, not Trump, and he did it 100%. And maybe, and I'd love to follow up on that. Nobody expected Florida, and people were like, oh, we can have DeSantis, low taxes, great economy, and abortion, and everybody expected it to happen, and it didn't happen, and we got Florida. But maybe a bit of an outline of these 10 states. It was in 10 states, and 3 failed, and 1 was Florida. I disagree with you a little bit on what to expect. You said we didn't, but Nebraska and South Dakota failed. I expected that. I really did.
You did.
I expected the
Nebraska's weird.
pro-abort. Yeah, they got the 3.
They got the 3, but also
They're not weird though.
You had Leroy Carhart there.
They're God-loving. Yeah, but I mean,
When we lost in Kansas, I thought it'd be reasonable to think we'd get a similar result in Nebraska.
Me too. Even though the timing.
and Missouri. They went from. Now I know you have theories on why that isn't going to have a lot of impact potentially, and God hope it doesn't. But it went from no abortion to abortion on demand, etc. So,
But no, they went from one clinic to one clinic.
that's the impact right now. But anyway, so there were 10. Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota all failed. That means they had pro-abort amendments that was going to enshrine some type of abortion into the Constitution. In Florida, it was abortion up to viability or to protect the health. Nebraska, abortion up to viability, protect the health. South Dakota, abortion without restriction in the first trimester and health in the second, and prohibited unless life or death of the pregnant woman, interestingly. And they all failed. Praise be to God. The 7 that passed were Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, Montana, New York.
What were the margins in Montana?
60-40.
Dang.
Arizona, Missouri. Now, Missouri to me was a heartbreak similar to Ohio. I lived there. I went to law school there. I know a lot of folks. Just visited there in Columbia.
You went to Washington?
Washington University in St. Louis. And but anyway, so Colorado always had abortion unrestricted. Now it's in the Constitution. So that was the law, but now it's unrestricted. You can't be prosecuted. It has to be paid for by health insurance. So once again, taking a page out of Obama's book, for the first time in history, Obama ordered a private company to sell something and ordered you, a private citizen, to buy it, health insurance.
Yeah.
And Maryland, the only restriction in Maryland is there's a compelling state interest to infringe on abortion, otherwise it's unrestricted. In Nevada, passed 1, and they have to bring it back and pass a second time. So no change right now. Montana, all it did was enshrine what the 1999-2000 case of Armstrong. So the Supreme Court of Montana allowed abortion since 2000 through the Armstrong case. He was a notorious abortion like Carhart, but you don't ever heard of him because he's in Montana. And that is up to viability. They just put it into the Constitution, but they made it vague. So parental consent, don't know. Things like that. New York, doubled down. You could always get an abortion up to and during birth, but now you cannot deny any rights, any parental rights. You cannot restrict abortion. You can't have parental notification. You can't have to make them pay for it.
Just like all other surgeries. Same thing.
Arizona is now abortion up to fetal viability. That was a big fist fight, as you know. We already went over Missouri, which went to fetal viability, but from no abortion. So that was a big deal. So, it's a 70% loss. And I want to get back to, I believe that Ron DeSantis, in many ways, in this election, showed himself to be the most dominant governor, a dominant political figure who said, you can have me and no abortion, instead of you can have me and abortion.
He had all those doctors lined up saying it is never medically necessary to do an abortion. He was just doing everything
But he
right.
still did it.
You think it
Other
helps
states
that he
do.
wasn't up for election?
I don't know. I mean, when he decided to run for president, it was like either right after or right before he signed the heartbeat bill. I mean,
It was right after.
He'd be the type of guy where, just in the position that he's in politically, you could see him getting behind the 15-week ban and, okay, this is like compromise. And he just went to the mat for it. And I think that's really impressive. We're so used to talking about there's no perfect politicians, which is true. I'm sure he's got some issues somewhere. I don't know exactly what they are, but he went out and he didn't just like issue a mealy-mouthed press release. He went out and he campaigned on the road in all these cities. He reached out to 40 Days for Life campaigns. He was just doing it. And I think that this is big on a number of fronts. It prevented the legalization and the constitutionalization of abortion in Florida. But it also is one more compelling example of you can be pro-life and win elections if you are otherwise competent and do a good job at governing your state.
Yeah, and it was a great victory. The whole election, obviously, if you are a Christian, a Catholic, you want to live your life, you need to provide for your family, you want security. It was just Tuesday was good for you. It was great, and we needed it. We didn't dodge a bullet. We dodged a nuclear bomb.
He didn't just enshrine abortion, but it says in Missouri where it would have been. He didn't just stop the enshrining of abortion. It was like a state where it enshrined abortion and revoked, in Missouri's case, no abortion, and in Florida, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Against and in the face of the President of the United States saying, "Oh no, I don't agree with that. That's too little, 6 weeks." I go, what do you don't like the number 6? Like, he doesn't know, he just says it, right? It's just a political thing. And you said, I don't know, it shows the kind of guy he is. I mean, I think the kind of guy he is pro-life, but it shows the kind of I think you said also it shows the kind of politician he is, and I agree with that totally. And eventually some people, and I didn't want him for president, but I've been very impressed, lay down and say, I got to lay my head on the pillow at night. And these people, there's just like people being killed. And they're just not born yet, and they're being killed. And so be it. And he's not the greatest speaker. Talk about messaging.
He's a bad campaigner.
Talk about messaging. He's not a great messenger. I think that's one of the things. Guy's a Navy, was counsel to the Navy SEALs. He's a lawyer. He's top of the class. He never talks about that stuff. Maybe he shouldn't do it. Maybe that's self-aggrandizing. Maybe that's. But
he was great on messaging with COVID.
He was great on messaging with this.
Oh, and on this. But it was weird when he ran for president. You're like, oh, he's kind of an oddball, and he doesn't seem like that when he's doing press conferences and stuff. But just he didn't
seems a little geeky.
He didn't pass the you want to have a beer with him test, which is important for presidents.
Except for when he never made fun of people, which is good,
right,
in the abstract, except for the governor of California who deserves it,
right.
So nobody minds that, right? But generally, he also didn't appear tough.
Yeah.
And he is tough.
He had the weird grin.
And you know who appears tough is Texas's governor. He didn't appear tough.
Abbott's great.
Yeah, Abbott's great on that front. On a lot of fronts, but he appears tough, and he's not a jerk.
Abbott
DeSantis
also
isn't a jerk, but he doesn't appear like to be a jerk. I don't know.
No.
In that category, Abbott is. I have to sleep at night, and I'm Catholic, and I don't want to go to hell on abortion. And when you look at Greg Abbott. We've had him a long time, thankfully, but I go back. He was the first attorney general to sue Planned Parenthood. Texas was the first state to defund Planned Parenthood. I mean, Greg Abbott was a nightmare as attorney general for Planned Parenthood. It was awesome. And anyways, he was a great.
Can I give a plug to the ILJ? We reached out to the attorney general in Montana and said that we would be happy to help through the ILJ. And we are now meeting with the now reelected attorney general of Missouri to see if we can do anything there. But the fact of the matter is, you put it in the Constitution.
And you already met once with the AG in Missouri, right?
No, Montana.
Montana, okay.
We were supposed to meet, and he said, what if I don't win the election? You'll want to meet with the next man or woman. But he won, and he's great pro-life. But the fact of the matter is, like I always say to when I go out and visit our campaigns, which I love doing, which is, you're more relevant than ever. I'm not relevant anymore. I can't argue anything. I got no court cases. I can't sue. It's legal. It's in the Constitution. There's nothing I can do. You are now their last best hope. Your prayer and fasting and love is, please don't do this. I'll walk that long with you. I love you. That's it. Lawyers become irrelevant. 40 Days for Life is more important than ever once they pass one of these constitutional. As smart as it is, as powerful as it is, it's like you quoted, I don't know who said it about, I think it was Planned Parenthood. I don't understand why they're winning. All they do is stand out front and pray. Like, that's way more powerful than lawsuits. We need to file lawsuits because the unborn can't do it.
Right.
We need to go to marches because they can't march, and we're killing them. But I mean, the point is that.
And I would say in general, post-Roe, 40 Days for Life is more important now than ever. And we see that not because we say it and we think it's great, but the demand. The demand is at an all-time high. But with all these political victories, allow me to invite Mr. Carlin to depress us because we have a topic that says there's no such thing as a permanent victory, as if we don't know that. Like, oh, we don't have to do anything. Trump won. Like, we never put our faith in politicians. Why is the end of the world coming? Because I really am going to enjoy this part of the podcast.
No, this is actually an encouraging thing. The permanent...
It doesn't look like it in the notes.
It's just bad messaging.
The permanent majority was supposed to be the Democrats were supposed to get killed in 2022. They didn't. There's like 9% inflation. They win anyway. The Democrats, after Roe v. Wade is overturned, they think they're never going to lose another election. They've got a permanent majority. And so when I'm not saying the Republican, like I don't think either party has a permanent majority. Things change. The part of the wheel that's on top is going to go to the part of the wheel that's on the bottom. But it backfired on the abortion supporters. That's all they had going into this election, and they lost. But it is something, I guess there's a cautionary note for us here. Every election, the party that wins, it's like, well, the other party's in the wilderness. They're in the darkness. They're cast out into the deep. And that's not the case. There are some things that the Republican Party and pro-life candidates will need to work on. They have not won elections if Trump is not on the ballot. The midterm elections, local elections, referenda, Supreme Court elections at the state level. The Republicans and the pro-lifers have done poorly in general.
Isn't that
for the last few
amazing
years?
You said that, though? I mean, if you just go back 12 years, pro-life movement hasn't won any elections without Donald Trump. You're like, what?
Yes.
But that funny part. But also, this is the issue with there's nobody in the world like Donald Trump, and that's a good thing. And the bad thing is there's nobody else in the world like Donald Trump, and just winning off his coattails, which definitely happened a few weeks ago. Just from reporters, it's not our issue, but they will say, like the conservative reporters are like, no Republican could pull the blue-collar white male worker. Like those numbers that he gained in 2016 and then has only increased, like those kind of demographics, Republicans will have to figure out how to win those people without him.
The long jump record, Tom Brady's records, and but I think, Steve, that the politically, you're probably right for a long time, but they all get broken. But one thing that, in addition to to affirm you, and to bolster your argument, is that constitutional amendments are you can pack the court, you can get a new Congress, you can get a new legislature, you can change the law back and forth, you will get a new president, you will vote. Oh my gosh, the blue wall was a red wall. What is going? But Constitution, they can change. 21st Amendment, right? They can change. You can't drink. Now you can drink. But it's very, very difficult to do. And so that's another thing that in terms of immutability, and that's against us on that one.
But, so answer me this, because I'm not questioning you. I'm seeking understanding. A state like Missouri, for example, they suddenly get this on the ballot.
Answer me this. I'm not questioning you. Those were the two phrases, one after the other.
Answer me
Answer me this. No question.
I'm not doubting you. I'm seeking understanding.
Riddle me this, Batman.
I'm seeking understanding.
You're not the Q.
I'm seeking understanding.
I'm not questioning. Good, Steve.
The Missouri, for example, Missouri puts abortion in their constitution. And I don't know what led up, was it signatures or whatever? It got on the ballot and suddenly, bam, it's there. Wouldn't it be just as easy to take that out if you switch 4% of the electorate?
No.
No?
No, because the process by which that goes, and each state is very different, is that they propose a referendum measure. Then it goes to the attorney general, who may or may not now be a Democrat, that person then has to affirm it, change it, give it up to the Supreme Court. Some are elected, some are appointed. You have a different mix. Then they can either say yes or no in some states, or they can do what's called blue penciling, or as in the case of Montana, rewrite the entire thing. That then goes back down. It often goes to the legislature. And my opinion, it's a knee-jerk thing that gets these on. It is something like, this didn't work. We need to be drinking again. 21st Amendment. I mean, It's a knee-jerk thing, and it's a once in a not a millennia. What's a century? It's a once in a century process, and a lot of kids are going to die in Missouri.
It's definitely worthy of it, though. Obviously, it matches the other ones.
But it's what you brought up a good point. If the messaging sucks, and Steve brought out a good point, and if the turnout sucks, you have no chance. I mean, it's a 75%. You have no chance to get this thing done.
Allow me to go a little grim, but just looking at, and we're gonna get into some of this, because the millennials, Harris won the millennials by only 1% because they got older and they had kids. Okay, they're supposed to all be liberal progressives. Steve and I are old millennials. Okay, so that age group. Generation Z, way more conservative than everybody predicted, even though Jordan Peterson and Generation Z are like my kids, like your younger kids are.
Like
Generation
1996 to 2010 birth dates.
Yes, very. Damn, sorry. I was like right, like totally accurate.
What do you mean by that?
But so the grim part is baby boomers dying, and that's a big pro-abortion vote, and they're not going to be around in 20 years. You're not a baby boomer, so it's fine. I didn't kill you off.
That's right.
So that's just, as you see, Generation Z is the most pro-life generation at their age than any generation before them. So what we have seen is that no matter what generation you are, you do get more pro-life with time, with the exception maybe the boomers. So you would think Generation Z, the millennials, they're already getting more pro-life. They started off more pro-life. They're going to get more pro-life. And so it's not that unheard of that, of course, all this stuff passes in Kansas or in Ohio, and we're all crazy and depressed. But for the long game, it's very much doable because we're only going to continue printing pictures of our ultrasounds, and kids are growing up with that, and that's just normal.
We're going to have to wait until DeSantis and Ronald Reagan mesh, and a guy with that much chops and that much understanding and management ability has the ability to communicate like Ronald Reagan, and people realize what we need to concentrate on legally is protecting and affirming women who are pregnant, to help them during their pregnancies, to make sure that they have a home and clothing and education, and make them equal in the places that need to be equal, such as the workplace, gaining access to education, and then they won't need abortion. And when that message is out, people will, like certain politicians may have said, you can have me and abortion. You can have a good army, a tight border, and abortion. Then those people will be like, you know what? We can have fairness in the workplace and our children. And I think that when that message comes out, and that's why, I end every talk, we need to fight in court, but we're going to win on our knees, because ultimately these come and go, like you said, and I think constitutional amendments are quasi-permanent, but ultimately 40 Days for Life is so, and movements like it, prayer and fasting is so important. That's the last, and not last best hope, the last and only hope in these states.
And it's the engine that fuels all of the other successes, the legal victories, the political victories, the legislative victories, the victories in our pregnancy health centers. I don't think those things happen without prayer as the foundation.
I have a few quick nerd things for you before we wrap up.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Number one, so the baby boomers die off. Who increases? Latinos. Boy, what a great job Trump did. What a great job I did with all the Latinos. And they love the food. It's excellent. All the tacos and the queso. So they came through. They are pro-life. They're not going for this anti-Catholic garbage, okay? They don't want abortion at 40 weeks. I thought that was very, very powerful. But real quick, you are already looking to 2026. You said there's not a lot to be gained in the House and in the Senate, and the pro-life Senate seats we will have to defend will be tough to defend in 26.
Some of them will be. I mean,
Who is that?
This is...
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's all good. I mean, there's probably going to be, I can't remember the next one or next two elections you're going to have, I think, like J.D. Vance in Ohio, like that seems safe, but the president's party usually gets destroyed in the midterm elections. You've got states like North Carolina, the swing states. Like right now we're at a point where if Trump won your state handily, the Republicans have all of those senators. If Harris won your state handily, the Democrats have all of them except for one senator in Maine. And then it's kind of like 50-50 in the swing states. And so those swing states where you're going to have some of the senators in those swing states coming up for re-election, and can the Republicans hold them or can they not hold them? And that's going to be an issue. And this is why I kind of mentioned like no permanent majority. Every candidate has to build a coalition. Like Obama built his coalition of voters, and the Democrats thought we've got this forever. But nobody in the Democrat Party has been able to rebuild Obama's coalition.
You sound incredibly knowledgeable, and you are on this matter. Probably in the top two people I know who know this election stuff seriously. And you know that. I ask you questions about it all the time. But you also sound like every single one of those very knowledgeable talking heads. And Trump swept every swing state. I mean, Does this knowledge matter?
Yeah, I think so.
She also killed her own voter turnout, and she's not going to be on the ticket in the future.
But do these
We're
types
not
of
giving them credit.
predictions and
They'll
these
bash you.
knowledge, because of the second half of that sentence, does this knowledge matter because Trump has now changed the paradigm of what you can do, who you can be, what you can say, and so is the liberals. Letitia Harris, is she married? Does she have children? We don't know. Kamala Harris, how is she? What was that whole deal with Willie Brown? Or you can have DUIs, you can have affairs, The Republican governor of South Carolina had to resign because he was cheating on his wife in Argentina, and he said he was hiking Nowadays he'd be like, what?
Why did I have
a little
to resign?
time off? Are you kidding me? Have you seen her? And so. I mean, has the paradigm, I'm wondering, because you have great knowledge, and you're right. Everything you said is right, but everything all these people said is right, and they were looking at the things going, so he won Michigan? I'm just wondering, does it even matter?
Well, he got 45% of freaking New Jersey.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, his losses were impressive. But that's the thing about the Latino vote is that doesn't change. I mean, I think you can't unring that bell, as you like to say. And now
I love to say that.
Now that it's
You know who
not
said
like
that?
Who?
Oliver Wendell Holmes.
God bless him. You see what I'm saying? Like, the Latino thing's not going to change. That's only going to increase. Black males? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine a Republican?
I think Trump has unique appeal to those demographics, though. And I don't know if that can be rebuilt. And the case in point of that is
That's pretty big policy.
Trump won
election, though.
Trump won Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, and the Republican Senate candidates lost all of those Senate races. They lost them just barely, but in Nevada, if you took the number of candidates or the number of voters who voted for Trump and then didn't even vote for Senate at all, and they just voted straight ticket Republican, you'd have a Republican senator in Nevada. So this is kind of my point is I think you've got to...
That's a good point.
The Republican Party is going
Through
to
the
have
abortion amendments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to have to find a way to not just assume like, oh, great, now we have Latinos.
As we wrap up,
But I want to use that
go
point
ahead.
before we wrap up.
You want to say
arguing to Steve a little
my
bit
favorite
more.
word.
You're saying, that Latino thing's not going to change. Was there any doubt like 6 months ago that every conservative was saying that what they're doing is they're letting 20 million Hispanics across the border because they're all going to become Democrats? And now we're like, Trump's really swayed the Latino vote. And now everybody's...
I don't think that's a guarantee.
I know,
I was
we
not
all
on that
believe-
bandwagon. I was like,
Okay, well, maybe everybody but you, but as we know, you're a genius in math.
well, yeah, that was it. That was the whole.
poor
But
message.
the whole thing is like, yeah, but they still not the ones who aren't the drug dealers and the rapists and the child molesters, but the ones who just came here and culturally they're Catholic, they have devotion to Our Lady Guadalupe, they're all of that. They don't want abortion on demand. I don't think that was a guarantee with the swing state thing. I may be wrong. I don't want to go against the opinion of Elon Musk because he's much smarter than all of us. But as we close out, first off, one of my top 3 words for you to say is Nevada. I love that. That's just,
Nevada?
Yeah, Nevada. I hope that Nevada does a lot in the future so we can do podcasts and Steve can say, Nevada, Nevada, Nevada. Did you pick up on that? You like accents.
I like Steve's accent. I think everything he does is very good.
Thank you for the affirmation.
There you go. Okay. So
I didn't notice it. I got family from up north.
oh, you do. You, your in-laws. Okay. So
Did I say it right?
Oh, yeah.
we got to defund Planned Parenthood. We talked about this. Trump actually wanted to defund Planned Parenthood in 2017. Paul Ryan and the useless Republicans wouldn't go for it. He wanted to do it in 2019. J.D. Vance 6 weeks ago said they wanted to defund Planned Parenthood. That will be detrimental to Planned Parenthood. This is why I thought it was very reckless for people to say, oh, if Trump gets in office, he won't do anything pro-life. Stupid, reckless, not accurate, and doesn't align with history. And this he has wanted to do in the past. He didn't have the power or popularity with his own party to do it. He does now, and you will see some serious abortion facilities close, and not just in the red states, but in California and New Jersey and New York and Nevada. And it's going to be amazing. And so that needs to be the push of the pro-life movement. This is market-driven. Newsom can run around with his hair. He can celebrate infanticide. He can do whatever he wants. And in the backdrop, there's abortion clinics closing in California. And that's our goal. And the defunding of Planned Parenthood, it's a third of their income.
I shaved my head because of Newsom's hair, by the way. Just as
I thought you shaved because you were mad Trump won and you're doing all the things.
No, I shaved it like
there's a
like
sex
hostile.
strike.
Have you heard of
There's a
St. Paul? Have you read about St. Paul? I know you're reading.
I've
Paul
heard of
messaging.
Paul,
Do you think he
yes.
had good messaging? I thought he had excellent messaging.
Yeah, he was good messenger.
Corinthian. He knew his audience. Anyway, he shaved his head. So I was like, everybody says Trump's not going to win. I'm going to shave my head. And so actually, Donald.
I don't
I'm
understand, but you still have hair. Like what? Why did Bruce Willis it?
I did it 3 weeks ago.
Oh, so you were like Magua.
Oh yeah,
You
except for
scalp.
cooler.
Except you didn't eat somebody's
And
heart.
tougher. I would have.
You were. He got me. You didn't eat somebody's heart. I would have.
You got to triple down to get.
I gotta close. Oh my gosh. Great Thanksgiving movie. All right. Last of the Mohicans.
Oh,
Great. You haven't seen it.
I have.
Oh,
really? Did you like
shocked.
it?
Oh my gosh.
Excellent.
I'm recovering. Okay. Please rate, review, and share this podcast. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We will be having a very special Thanksgiving podcast next week. And look out for Magua. He's out there. He's running around in the woods. Really dangerous guy. Really dangerous guy. And definitely Magua is here illegally, and we're going to get rid of him.
Eating the dogs, the cats, and the hearts.
He's eating the dogs, the hearts. He's a strange bird. He's a weird guy. We will see you next time.
All right.
Oh, that was gold.